Hello, I'm Peter Machin. Welcome to my podcast. German writer and director Doris Dörrie is one of global cinema's most interesting filmmakers. With films such as Paradise and Cherry Blossoms, she has made a place for herself in the canon of classic cinema by telling stories told from different perspectives to those usually taken. I spoke to Doris about her remarkable film, Greetings from Fukushima, which was shot in Fukushima, Japan in the wake of the 2011 nuclear meltdown. Our wide-ranging discussion touches on a lot of things, including the dangers and creative possibilities inherent in telling stories about people from other cultures. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Doris, and if you like this podcast, please share it with everyone you know. And don't forget to click on the like and subscribe buttons. Here's me and Doris. Hi Doris, it is Peter Machin. Hello, how are you doing?
Peter. Hi.
Good.
How are you?
I am pretty good.
Good.
Okay, so we talk about your film.
All right.
Can you just tell me a little bit about your initial experience when you visited Fukushima after the meltdown?
Yes. Well, the first time I went was in November of 2011, and I really wanted to see it for myself because I've been to Japan so many times. I have so many friends there, and I just didn't want to sit around and get all the information from the news, and then now I remember that my initial impulse was to go because the orchestra of the opera in Munich, they decided not to because of the catastrophe. So everybody in Germany pretty much thought that all of Japan was radioactively polluted, and the foreigners pretty much left Japan in those times, and nobody wanted to go, so I figured, well, I should go. So I did, and I was very struck and overwhelmed by the devastation, but also by how people tried to cope. And back then, they had just moved into these temporary housings, and they tried to come to grips with the fact that they had lost everything within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is a very basic human fear, to just lose everything in a split of a second. And it reminded me so much of the experience that my parents' generation had in World War II.
Yeah.
Where both of my parents lost their places to live and everything in Hanover because of the bombing. And yes, I didn't really know whether I wanted to write about it or make a documentary about it, but wanted to say or talk about it. And then it took a long time for me to come up with a story, and I went back so many times, and I tried to figure out whether it would be possible to shoot at all in that region, because it was still the zone.
Yeah. And it's still the zone now, I presume.
No. I mean, we did shoot in the former zone, because what happened was that on January 1st of 2016, the government decided to pretty much open the zone again because they did not want to pay the subsidies for the refugees, for the evacuees. So people are being asked to move back, and that was the nucleus, the story really, because they kept announcing that. But there's nothing to move back to.
Yeah, that's
so
evident.
That became the nucleus of the story, that this old lady, she goes back to her destroyed house where there's nothing there, nothing whatsoever. But since she has no other option really, except for these teeny-weeny temporary housing units where everybody's going nuts, especially the men. I mean, a lot of men committed suicide. A lot of men turned to booze and drugs. Not the women, but the men.
Yeah. And when you were, I mean, this is a very obvious question, but I mean, it's one that I'm really interested in, is when you went back, I mean, how safe was it? I mean, how concerned were you about your own long-term health being impacted on?
Well, back in 2011, it was not safe if you stayed there for a longer period of time. They still had the big governmental signs everywhere with the readings. Apparently, they were all tweaked, these governmental readings. They were never the real thing. But it was very difficult to tell if you didn't have a air counter on you at all times, which I later on had.
Yeah.
So, well, I figured I'm only going to be here for a couple of days, but everybody else is left here forever because the young people left fairly early, about 2 to 6 months after the catastrophe. But the older people all got stuck there.
Yeah.
So, I thought, well, I'm just gonna put up with it, whatever it is. It's not like heavy. I knew that I was not gonna get heavily contaminated within 24 to 48 hours. I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. How long was the shoot?
It's still. Pardon me?
Sorry, how long was the shoot?
Oh, the shoot was long. The shoot was, we shot in the former zone for 6 weeks, and I was there for 3 months.
Okay.
But then, by then, I had done so much research, and I had taken dust samples, and I had gotten them analyzed by the Helmholtz Institute, the German Institute for Radioactivity, and they had assured me again and again that it would be all right to take a crew down there and spend several weeks there. So I really tried very hard to be on the safe side because I didn't want to have the responsibility to take on the responsibility for an entire team. I couldn't do that.
Sure.
So we made very, very sure that was going to be okay. And then we all wore dosimeters that keep collecting the accumulated radioactivity that you were exposed to.
Yeah.
And we sent them in after we got back to Germany, and then we were just lucky that the readings turned out to be totally okay.
Okay, good.
But that was, of course, a bit of luck also. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, of course, not safe to dig in the ground, to sit under trees, to eat berries. All that is not safe. Of course not.
Yeah. Sure. I think I would be very neurotic myself.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell? I mean, I presume that you have been at a screening of the film in Japan. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the response? About screening the film there and about audience responses there.
Yeah, I mean, the screenings in Japan are extremely emotional. People get so much reminded of their own connection to Fukushima, and everybody has a connection somehow. Whether it's relatives or a lot of people did volunteer work, or a lot of people remember where they were during the big earthquake. So those screenings are very, very intense. And then people are so grateful to us, which really puts me to shame. But they are, because nobody ever shot a feature film in that region.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And that's very, very touching to, be thanked for this film. Which is bizarre that but sometimes it works that way, that foreigners, they come in and they talk about traumas because they're not that affected by this trauma than the people who live there. So sometimes it's easier to come in from the outside and talk about these things.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in South Africa, I've seen some, obviously not all, but I've seen some films about South Africa where I can sense that there's an enormous benefit to the distance of being from somewhere else. But at the same time, people do get all head up about, people telling other people's stories, etc. So I just want to ask you.
Oh yeah, that's why I always insist on having my perspective in the film, because I would never dare in talking about Japan from a Japanese viewpoint. So that's why I have the young German in the film who goes to Japan, doesn't know anything about it, is a fool, the traditional fool.
Yeah.
Who is very, innocent on one hand, but also quite ignorant. And I need to have that perspective, because that's, of course, my perspective. As much as I read up and do research, I'm still ignorant about a lot of things, because you can never get the inside perspective of a country. So I need to have that perspective from the outside in the story itself.
Cool. And I mean, it seems to me there's also, you have, I mean, in this film, for example, you have Japanese culture and you have German culture, and then you have the spaces in between them, and it seems that a lot of your films deal with that space in between. Um, and I think it's a very valuable space and one that we kind of are ignoring in the current discussions about cultural appropriation and everything. Um, I think my question.
I was talking about that with my workshop here in South Africa. It was really interesting.
Okay.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, I think.
No, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, well, do you want to just elaborate a little bit on your experience at the workshop and what you said? 'Cause, I mean, it is a big thing at the moment.
Yes, but I wore an African turban to this workshop because I wanted to talk about exactly that.
Okay.
Cultural appropriation. To just give a very visual signal. But I found out that the members of the workshop, coming from very different countries, like from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Sudan, from Kenya, from Egypt. It was really a very diverse group, and they weren't really that concerned with cultural appropriation because it was not their theme at all.
Yeah.
So they couldn't really care less in a way, because they're busy telling their stories and they don't really give a shit whether some white filmmakers try to hijack their culture. It's none of their concern, it seemed.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I found that also quite heartening because they have more important stuff to discuss.
Yeah, and in fact, that's my feeling.
I thought, but
there is much more. I mean, look, all of that stuff is interesting and has value, but I think at this point in human history, there are many more important things to discuss.
Yeah, and I found it very refreshing and very uplifting to see that, especially the women in this little workshop, they really want to talk about their stories and their their stuff.
Cool.
So they can't be bothered really with this topic.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Just quickly back to the Japanese screening. One thing that I'm interested in is your specific use of dark humor in the film and in your films generally. Did that play? Did the humorous moments in the film, even though they're often not that funny, but they're still kind of humorous? How did those moments play with the Japanese audience?
Very well, very very well, and I was quite surprised about that because, as I said before, it's so emotional to them, the whole topic. But that's what I try to always sneak in a little humor, a little. It's like opening a window and getting a little bit of fresh air, especially when his topic is quite heavy and quite sad.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
And it was important to me, and I was happy that the audiences everywhere really picked up on that.
Yeah. And I mean, what I like about it, and in fact, your general kind of, I'll use the phrase like real world surrealism that you kind of inject into your films. It never feels. What is the word? It never feels constructed. It actually always feels like it's just arising out of real life. I mean, I know with Cherry Blossoms, a few people spoke about the conceits of the film, but I didn't think they were conceits. I felt that they were that it was a strange kind of realism.
See, conceit is such a difficult word for me to understand. I never quite understand what it means. Is it meant in a negative way? Conceit itself, the word?
No. In that context, it's not. It's more kind of a more American word would be the implausibles, but that's a slightly different thing, implausibility. But conceits are kind of like the setup, the premise.
Setups? Yeah, that's how I understand it.
Yeah.
But then I was a bit worried. Maybe it's really negative.
Yeah. No. It's definitely not. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What was your question again?
I also was wondering that. In fact, it wasn't really a question. I was just saying that all of that stuff always actually feels kind of quite organic. It doesn't feel like something you've imposed on the narrative afterwards.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and if that's in your intention.
Yeah, for me it was absolutely liberating when the first little tiny video camera hit the market. It was the little Sony camera that was as big as a book.
Yeah, yeah.
In 2000 or 1999, and for me that was so liberating because I've always tried to I don't know how to put it really, but to a sense of reality into my films and not have a very controlled fictional world,
Yeah.
which to a lot of filmmakers is what intrigues them, but to me what is the most intriguing is to have reality come into the story somehow. And with this new technique, with the digital technique, I could almost seamlessly bring fiction into reality. What we normally do is that we try to reenact reality in films. When we set up a room, we try to make it feel like the real thing, and you know what I mean. But this way, I could bring my fictional context or story into real life.
Yeah.
Like the first film I made this way was Enlightenment Guaranteed, where I took two German actors and we went to Zen monastery, and it took the story of the two brothers into a Zen monastery in Japan. And that was very, very not only liberating to me, but I just got a kick out of it. To have also reality come in and change the storyline. Not too much, of course, because I do want to talk about certain things and not have it entirely changed, but to always allow reality to come in. And for Fukushima, for instance, there was this old priest, and I tried to find the person who took care of the victims and the surviving people of the catastrophe spiritually, and I found him, and he told me his story, and I found him so charismatic and so interesting that I asked him to become a part of the film and tell his story in my fictional context, which he did.
Okay.
And I think it would be, you sense it when somebody tells the truth. You sense it.
Yeah.
I think you can really tell on a very guttural level that those lines are not written, they're not made up, and this person is not made up.
Yeah,
and
completely.
Also with, the people in the housings and the temporary housings, you know that these are the real people.
Yeah. I mean, it never occurred to me that you might be using actors. They always just felt real.
Yeah. And I think you can tell as the audience, it gets to you in a different way. And
yeah.
That's something what I try to do again and again, to find the bridge or the connection between my fictional setup and reality.
Okay, I don't know.
I get my stories from real life, so I try to bring them back into reality.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about the character Satomi? Was she based on anyone in particular? I really loved how abrasive she is, and how real.
Yeah. Well, she's very much based on all these interviews that I had, that I held with all these older ladies in the temporary housings over 4 years. I talked to so many of them, and that's what her character is based on. And also something that has always struck me about Japan, that it seems so polite on the surface, and underneath it's so tough.
Yeah. And
especially women. And especially older women. But that's something that the Japanese audience always giggles at, how strict and how fierce she is.
Yeah.
Because they are so familiar with that attitude, that behavior. And that was also something that I really wanted to get into the film. And it's also very, very direct, and the way she talks is not polite at all, which is very Japanese.
Yeah. Also.
So, yeah.
Yeah, she just felt really real. She felt completely like a real person.
Oh, good. I'm glad, because she was played by one of the biggest stars in Japan, Kaori Momoi. She's like the Meryl Streep of Japan.
Yeah.
The actress. And she was very devoted to this part. And it was also quite astonishing that she was willing to not only go with us to the zone or the former zone, but also stay in these really horrendous containers that lived in for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Cool. Just how did you fall in love with Japan? What is it about the country and the culture that led you to make so many films set there?
Yeah. Well, it was a film festival, the Tokyo Film Festival, 1984 or 5, before I guess, because I got invited with my very first feature film, which was called Straight to the Heart, to this festival, and then I didn't want to sit in a dark cinema. I wanted to see the country, so I hitchhiked across Japan, which was totally unknown at that time. I mean, women hitchhiking was even worse than hitchhiking in general. Nobody did that. So, what I think has fascinated me and still fascinates me about Japan is that it seems so German on many levels.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's so exotic and so different. But we not only share a lot of history and a lot of really ugly history, like Japanese fascism, German fascism, the Second World War, and so on and so forth, but also what happened after the war. The destruction of the cities, but also the fascination with America, with pop culture, with becoming as American as possible in the 50s and 60s, with it being torn between tradition and between trying to be as American as possible. A lot of these things feel very, very familiar to me. But then at the same time, it's totally different. So it's like a constant short circuit in my brain when I go to Japan.
Yeah.
I feel at home, and at the same time, I don't.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Something that
Yeah. And I mean, I can see. I mean, I even I mean, I have German blood, but I wouldn't say I'm German. But I can also see those similarities, and of course the differences. And then I mean, the other commonality is that both countries rose again to power in the 20th century, and
and they became so wealthy.
Yeah.
Because they lost the war, they became really wealthy. That's a very, very interesting contradiction. And what did that do to people, with people? There are many interesting facets to this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a little off a little of a side tangent, but it is amazing to me that like Germany now in 2017 has kind of become the moral center of the Western world.
Isn't that? I mean, it's very funny, isn't it?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm glad we have one, all things considered, but it is crazy.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, history is funny. And then the other thing, of course, is nuclear power, which and the countries now have kind of different relationship to.
Thanks for reminding me, because of course that was also one of the impulses to make this film, because our decision to pretty much turn off nuclear power is of course based on the catastrophe of Fukushima.
Yeah.
So there's this very strong connection between these two countries.
Yeah.
The Japanese think it's totally insane that we decided to pull out.
Yeah, and in fact it's just totally fucking rational. Yeah.
It is.
And South Africa, of course, is trying to now build a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Well, but that's a very important lesson. Or maybe one should start a tour group to Fukushima. When you experience what it means to walk around, uncontaminated soil, and to always have to think of where you put down your bag, where you sat down on the ground, and all these things. When you realize that your mind cannot deal with it, you cannot process it. It's a very interesting educational lesson that you cannot deal with the human mind cannot deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in kind of relating to that, I have one last question for you. Was there, I mean, it's a difficult question, but not really. But in the film, the desolation is kind of beautiful, as desolation often is, when we've aestheticized it or represented it. Was there a sense of...
Do you find it beautiful?
I do find it beautiful, but I mean, not in an obvious, greeting card way. But there is some. I mean, there is some beauty to destruction, and especially to the aftermath and to desolation. Is that in my head? Was there any sense of beauty when you were there, or was it just devastation?
No, and to me, it doesn't look beautiful either. It looks desolate. It really looks very sad.
Yeah. No. Yes.
What I found beautiful was the tiny means with which the lady Satomi reintroduces Japanese culture into this destroyed house, and that I found really interesting too. That it doesn't need much to reestablish Japanese culture. A certain way of sitting, of how you drink your tea, of how you cook something very basic, of not renovating the house, but reestablishing the Japanese architecture with the shojis.
Yes.
That's it, and it's very basic, very pure, and I can't really think of another culture that needs so little to reestablish itself. When you would think of a destroyed German house, how much would it take to reestablish German culture? A lot, I would say.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't really know how either. But with just these little tiny things, Satomi manages to, retrieve her culture in a very, very basic level.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. I had some tea after I saw the film last night, and I made it much. I made it much more slowly and more quietly than I normally would have.
I'm so glad. What an effect.
Yeah.
It was worth it, I must say, to shoot this film. It makes you drink your tea more slowly.
Yes, it was. Is there anything else you want to say about the film?
No, I don't think so. You've got it all covered. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Sure, Doris.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Let's stay in touch. This was really nice talking to you.
Cool, great. Have a lovely flight.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cheers, Doris. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Doris. For a selection of Doris's books and films, check out talktopeter.com, where you'll find more conversations with creative minds, as well as playlists, recommendations, and other useful resources. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.